Today we're going to talk about the real reason why you wake up at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. This problem getting up in the middle of the night is not an adrenal problem. And I taught people in many videos, if you have a problem in the middle of the night, it's an adrenal problem. Well, I am changing my viewpoint on that. I recently stumbled on some information that is just mind-blowing, and I'm going to share it with you. And this is going to solve a lot of problems for you, especially if you wake up between 1 and 3 and you're just totally wide awake. Your heart's pounding and you look at the clock and you're like, oh no, it's between 2 or 3 a.m. Why am I waking up? I remember when I had this problem, I took so many adrenal supplements and I did not get better. In fact, it took me a very long time before I actually was able to sleep through the night. My main point is when you solve the wrong problem, you will not be able to get rid of your issue. And this is the big problem with medicine as well. They're not treating the root cause or treating this symptom. So this is a video to clarify something, get you on the right track. And what I'm going to share with you is actually going to blow you away, but it's going to help you sleep too. If you're a little bit skeptical, that's totally fine. Just hear me out. When you go to sleep at night, your brain is near 100% dependent on the fuel from the liver, not the muscles. It cannot tap into the fuel from the muscle. That's like the stored sugar in the muscle. It's called glycogen. It can't use any of that. Typically, a healthy liver should have enough stored sugar to be able to feed the brain through the whole night without any problem. But if you have a fatty liver, okay, the way that you know you have a fatty liver is if you have a belly. If you look down, you can see your belly. That means you have a fatty liver. But that's not the only way. Some people have skinny fat and they basically have a lot of liver fat, but you can't really tell. But one obvious way is if you have a gut. If your liver is inflamed, you're going to have a problem storing fuel for the brain. If you have scar tissue in the liver, that's called cirrhosis, you're going to have a problem. But the most common reason why the liver cannot feed the brain at night is because of something called insulin resistance. And all I want you to think about when I talk about insulin resistance is that you no longer have any way to stop the blood sugar that is made by the liver. So at night, your liver can actually make sugar, and that's called gluconeogenesis. Gluco meaning glucose neogenesis, the creation of. So the problem when the liver doesn't work right is it makes excess amounts of sugar. I know you're saying, wait a second, you just contradicted yourself. If your liver is making too much sugar, then the brain should have enough fuel, right? Yes, but if there's a liver problem, you are going to have at least 3 to maybe 5 or more blood sugar swings throughout the night. In other words, you'll have a spike of blood sugar and it'll come down. And what's going to cause it to come down is insulin. And here's the thing you really need to know. When blood sugar comes down on the low side right here, because it's constantly being regulated, your brain is going to say, liver, I need fuel. And that communication is through this hormone called adrenaline. Adrenaline mobilizes stored sugar really fast, so it'll just bring that sugar right up. But the problem is, at the same time, adrenaline is a stress hormone, and it's going to wake you up. You're going to feel more awake at 3 a.m. than you are during the day. And the hormone that wakes you up is not even cortisol. It's this one right here. Cortisol works a little slower. It's a stress hormone, but it's more like a wave. And we'll talk about that, but that's going to affect you more in the later part of the night. When you really finally identify the right problem, you can get it fixed and things will turn around. And I'm going to show you very soon what to eat to fix it. This is a short FAQ on a new product that I'm really excited about. This is Cold Rest Organic Castor Oil. First thing you need to know is cold rest means they don't use any heat. And of course, you know what organic is without pesticides, insecticides, things like that. And because it's cold rest, it also has vitamin E, which is also very good for the skin. What I recommend is you take just a little bit on your fingertips and rub it into either your eyelashes or your skin and let it penetrate and work all night long. So if you wanted to try a super high quality castor oil, you might want to try this one right here. In this blood sugar swing, the first swing is usually at midnight, between midnight and 1 a.m. And most people don't notice the swing because it's very, very minor. But this swing of blood sugar is occurring and reacting from your last meal. And you might be able to get 5 hours of sleep, maybe 6, but not 7 or 8. Now, that problem is related to cortisol. The cortisol spike is highest at 8 a.m., but you might have the spike at 5 a.m., waking you up earlier. You want to fix that problem by readjusting the circadian light and darkness cycles. So in the morning, it's very, very important to get outside and be exposed to blue light from the sun. The blue light actually increases cortisol. So what's going to happen is you're going to increase cortisol at the right time versus staying inside and not being exposed to that sun. You're not going to be able to trigger the cortisol. And so everything is pushed forward and you might experience cortisol later in the day. But if we start training the body very consistently to get outside, let the sun wake us up, then when it starts to get dark outside and you start to go inside your house, about 3 hours before you go to sleep, you want to start turning down the light. You want to start dimming things. You don't want this light, especially blue light from your LED lights, to start to stimulate more cortisol because blue light, even from the sun or LED, actually increases cortisol. But darkness stimulates melatonin, which actually starts to make you more tired. The other thing that happens as we get older is we lose our sleep pressure. There's an active thing that pushes us into sleep. It's like a pressure that pushes us into this wonderful, restful sleep. There are certain things that you can do if you're losing that sleep pressure, and I'm just going to give you a couple tips right now. Number one, weight training, exercise, resistance training, high-intensity interval training, doing physical work outside all increase that sleep pressure at night versus not working out. You're sitting at your desk in front of the computer all day. You didn't get a chance to go for a long walk. You're not going to have any sleep pressure. Also, avoiding too many stimulants. So you want to avoid drinking too much coffee with caffeine. Have a little bit, but don't overdo it. Another thing to increase sleep pressure is taking magnesium glycinate in the evening. Lately, I found if I take zinc with magnesium both together, that actually helps my sleep even more. So you have to realize that the liver has an external clock that's outside your brain, that it does a lot of the work at night. And if the liver is dysfunctional, it's going to interrupt your sleep. Now, primarily, we're focusing on fuel to the brain, but your liver does a lot of other things at night. It actually helps you burn fat. In fact, the majority of fat burning occurs at night if the liver is working right. It detoxifies you. It makes sugar. I've already talked about that. It also makes bile to help you digest fats, and it also clears out histamines. If the liver is not clearing out histamines, you're going to wake up with the stuff he knows. The liver also breaks down chemicals and toxins and drugs at night. So the liver is really, really important in the timing of doing all these things at night. And this is why it's so important to take care of your liver, because without these functions, you're going to wake up feeling really tired. You're not going to sleep. You're not going to feel really good. So then the next question is, what causes liver problems, right? Well, let me just run down the list. Seed oils, high omega-6 inflammatory oils, especially if they're heated over and over again in junk foods. So seed oils are one component of ultra-processed foods. The other two ingredients in ultra-processed foods are the sugar and the starch, like maltodextrin, modified food starch, modified cornstarch. These are industrial sugars, industrial starches, deadly on the liver. They're just going to make the liver really fat. Also, foods with low choline. Number 5, low sulfur foods. You apparently need sulfur to be able to detoxify the liver. Your liver is not a store of toxins. It's an organ that is supposed to get rid of toxins, and it needs sulfur foods to get rid of them. I'm going to explain what foods those are in a minute. Number 6, late night snacking. I used to snack between the time I would get done eating dinner till right before I would go to bed. It was a constant grazing. I did this for a long period of time, and that was probably the start of my downward cycle with my health. Okay, and of course you have the alcohol. I did that for 6 months. I actually was drinking these margaritas every night after work. I got in a habit of it, and at first it was great, and then after 6 months it was bad because my health started going down, down, down. I started having all sorts of liver problems. One thing about the liver, when you go to bed at night and you feel like a full sensation underneath your rib cage, and maybe you get bloating, and maybe you have referred pain to the right shoulder blade, the liver or the gallbladder or the little bile ducts are kind of swollen, and there could be stagnant sludge that is not flowing through from the liver down into the gallbladder, and then it's creating tension. On nerves, specifically the phrenic nerve that shoots pain up here. And I've had tension up on my right shoulder right here for years. I had no idea where that was coming from. Sometimes it'd go back into my right rhomboid, which is the muscle back here. And I would go to the chiropractor and get adjusted, never fixed it. It kept coming back because it was related to my gallbladder and my liver. But my liver was swell up and I had that sensation for such a long time. If you have that sensation, I'm going to show you what to do, adding foods and eliminating certain foods. But also, you want to be sleeping on your right side. You're going to feel more comfortable, or you're going to sleep better on your right side, because if you sleep on the left side, the liver is a little too swollen. It's going to kind of compress the heart and it could affect your breathing. But I know with people with that problem, they're very restless. They don't sleep very well. I mean, it's pretty bizarre now that in the past, I'm talking for like 20 years, I did not know what that was, but it was like a constant dull feeling underneath my right rib cage. Now, I don't even have any of it, but I used to live with constant bloating, and I thought that was kind of a normal thing, but it's not. I want to mention one more thing. When people go on the ketogenic diet, sometimes they have a problem sleeping through the night. Not because keto's bad, but because of this. Remember, I told you that the brain depends on the liver for the glucose through the night. Well, there's another fuel that the brain can run on, and that's called ketones. That's right, ketones. It doesn't have to run on glucose. In fact, only a small percentage of the brain really needs glucose. The great majority of the brain can run on ketones. And the real cool thing about this is the small amount of glucose that the brain needs can be produced by the liver itself. So if you go on the ketogenic diet, which is low carb, here's the problem. It's going to take a few days or even sometimes a week or two to transition into full ketosis. In the process of doing that, you might still have problems getting up. For those people that have problems sleeping when they start keto, I think the best recommendation is to slowly kind of do it. Not to do what most people do is they just dive in and they go really low carb right off the bat. So for those people that have sleeping problems when they start keto, they should probably go into ketosis a little bit slower than usual and just start cutting down the carbs a little bit at a time until you get them below 50 and then 30. And that way you'll sleep through the night. But realize it's only going to take maybe 1 to 2 weeks before you're fully adapted. But the very cool thing about this is that you don't have to run the brain on glucose from the liver. You can run the brain on ketones from the liver, which, by the way, is way better than glucose because they bypass this insulin resistance problem. You literally bypass the whole thing and you get fuel right into the brain, and the results are incredible. So if you haven't tried the ketogenic diet, you need to try it because it's the best way to not just feed the brain, but actually to fix this problem right here. But sometimes, again, it takes a couple weeks to transition into it. All right, here's the plan. Number 1, stop eating 4 hours before bed. Snacking is the killer. That'll mess you up. And this is why when you go to the grocery store, do not buy any junk foods. Keep your house clear of all these junk foods, okay? It'll make it a lot easier. Because when you go to the grocery store, you only need to say no once. But if they're sitting in your cupboard, you have to keep saying no every single night. And I know with myself, even though I have a lot of discipline, if it's there, it tempts me. And why not make it easy on yourself? Number 2, you want to start getting more choline in the diet. How do you do that? Egg yolks. I don't recommend consuming just the egg whites. Eat the whole egg. Egg yolks have choline, and that's going to give you great support for your liver. Also, if you eat liver, you'll get choline. Grass-fed meat, you'll get choline. Salmon will give you choline. And even cruciferous vegetables will give you choline as well. Number 3, we want sulfur foods so we can detoxify the liver. The more we can support the detoxification process, the more you're going to wake up and feel refreshed and good. So let's talk about what foods are high in sulfur. Garlic, onions, cruciferous, and cabbage is a cruciferous vegetable. Sauerkraut. I consume a lot of sauerkraut, but these foods will give you the sulfur to be able to support the liver. Now, number 4, you want to support the gallbladder. The gallbladder is going to store the bile, make it concentrated. So every time you eat, it's going to contract and push that bile into the small intestine to start to break down the fat. Not 100%, just breaks it down enough so then the pancreas can come in with its enzyme lipase to do the rest and then break it down to the smallest particles so that it could be absorbed in the small intestine. So they both work together. But so many people don't have enough bile. And so what happens is the ratio of cholesterol to bile It's like too high of cholesterol and not enough bile, and now it becomes sludge. And that's what I had. And it kind of sits in those little ducts and it puts pressure on the liver, and then that's how you get gallstones. So one thing to solve that is to consume foods that are bitter, like arugula, dandelion greens, certain bitter herbs, all help to increase the production of bile. There's one really good remedy that I've recommended in a lot of videos. It's called tutka, a type of bile salt. You would just take 2 of these on an empty stomach in the morning, and then I recommend taking 2 in the afternoon, okay? Empty stomach. And what you're gonna notice, it's gonna start to thin the bile. It'll start opening up these ducts. So you can get your ducts in a row, but you're going to actually feel like, wow, I don't feel that heaviness underneath my right rib cage anymore. I feel better down here. It won't back up all this pressure, and it's really gonna help right shoulder pain. I wish I would have known about this 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Okay, number 5, go low carb. Get your body running on ketones, not glucose through the night, okay? It's gonna solve your sleep problems. I will promise you that. Okay, but do a high quality ketogenic diet. Number 6, work on your blood sugars through the low carb, because we want to handle insulin resistance with these additional things right here. Apple cider vinegar, like a tablespoon in a glass of water before meals, can really help you, and even in the evenings greatly help you. Vitamin B1 is one of the best things for mental stress, and you're like thinking before you go to sleep. It gets rid of mental tension and it's great for anxiety. But the main thing it'll do, it'll help with your mitochondria, especially if you have diabetes or blood sugar problems, or have a history of eating a lot of carbs. Magnesium is super important in sleep, relaxation of muscles, and lowering of cortisol, and helping you fix insulin resistance, as well as this other mineral called potassium. You can get potassium through certain foods like avocados, or a potassium electrolyte to help reduce this insulin resistance. Let's not forget quality of protein. Animal protein is needed to actually help you detox, but it's also needed to help establish your blood sugar. So listen, if your liver is healthy, your brain is going to sleep deeply because the liver will keep the brain fed all night long. But before you click away, do this right now. I put my exact personal daily routine, the one that keeps me feeling like I'm 18 years old again. I put this daily routine in one printable page. It's a download, 100% free. And if you want the details on how to do the healthy version of the ketogenic diet, watch this video right here. Check it out.